Welcome back, Patriots, for a special edition of the Bald Brad Show, where we will be tuning in here in about 45 minutes to the presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump. We've been waiting for this for quite some time. Donald Trump put his fist through Joe Biden's chest and then gave an uppercut to the Democrat Party, so much so that the Democrats dropped their leading candidate. The most popular president in American history was destroyed by Donald Trump's debate skills. And hopefully we will see those skills this evening again versus Kamala Harris, folks. I know we're all in the chat right now. Look at the chat blowing up. Look at all the Patriots. Holy Lord, we are all rolling in here and we're going early because, well, frankly, everybody and their mother is streaming this thing. So we want to make sure that we get kind of the crew in here. Everybody's connected. Everything's going just fine. And if you're just joining us, couldn't be more than happy to have you with us. We will be here all evening going through the debate. It's happening in about 43 minutes sharp. And, well, we're streaming Fox News, but don't worry, folks. I got you covered. We are also streaming ABC right now. We are already locked and loaded, ready to go. Let me tell you, I got a spread for all of you. I hope you're all ready. We got water, okay? Nice ice cold water. All American. We got a little bit of coffee. As you know, I got to be careful because this thing is freaking tippity-topped. We're all set there. Oh, we're not done. Got a little bit of electrolytes. And lastly, oh, you have to. If you don't have the popcorn, folks, what are you doing? If you don't have the popcorn ready for this, what are you doing? And lastly, if you haven't hit that like button, what are you doing? So we will be live here, folks. Pop me on the big screen. We're just, again, joining. Everybody's getting in right now. If you haven't already, send this to your friends and family, folks, because it doesn't get any bigger. And quite frankly, this might be the only debate we have. Now, I think the strategy is this. I think Kamala Harris hasn't set up any other debates because if she wins tonight, there are no other debates. She won. That's going to be it. She's going to go back in her closet. She's not going to do any press conferences. She's not going to do any interviews. You're not going to see her till the freaking election after takes place. If Donald Trump wins, she's going to be begging Mr. 45 for more debates. Please, Donald, I'll give you anything. She said that a lot. How do you think she got in her position? I'll do anything. Yeah, I bet she will. I bet she freaking will. Well, again, she's not going to do any interviews. We're just waiting here. Wow, already coming out of the gates. Eric Birch with the $5. My Patriot family, let's pray it goes well for Trump. Amen to that, brother. And I'm going to heart that bad boy because you couldn't be more accurate than that. I see Autumn over there. What is that? Koi B, 89. It's tough to read. Liberty Love. Mizzy's here. We got everybody over here. Look at this. Look at this. Karen Cat Mom joining over at Rumble. Again, folks, hit that like button so other people know where to find us. The Architect, Jen's here. Bennington. We got Kingdom Come 73, Tennessee in the house. Hell yeah, baby. We got everybody here. Again, smash that like button, folks. Share it all over social media. We're trying to get the crew together. Let's listen in, though, what ABC's saying before the debate here.
Last year, right? The thing about immigration is it is an unknown for most of America, and that generates a lot of fear in people, which is why this has become a very hot topic. When we saw Trump on the border in Arizona a few weeks ago, he laid out part of his plan talking about tighter restrictions and penalties as part of what he wants to do if he's elected. On the other side of it, we haven't heard much from Harris when it comes to her immigration plan, other than she would try and resurrect that border security bill that was torpedoed right now. Listen, we have talked to voters. They want facts, they want policy, they want strategy. John?
Oh. Well, folks, let me bring you the facts. Boom, baby, we got the bingo card too. You guys weren't expecting that thing to flash on the screen like that, huh? Oh, yeah, baby. So this is what we got going. Actually, I'm going to need to hide this really quick here. So let's hide that. All right, so kind of just showing y'all the spread for this evening. We got the bingo card here. You all know how this rolls. Not the first time we've done something like this. We'll preview it again in another 20 or so, another 40 minutes. But let's break down what we have, because I think we have a pretty good spread here and a good likelihood of clearing another card. If you're just joining us, we've done about every bingo card out there, and we've always wiped the board clean. So for us to get bingo, it's not 5 across, okay? We're not wimps here. We're not Democrats. We're not snowflake liberals. No, no, no. We got to get all of them. So borders are, that has to be brought up. Now, this could be something that the moderator says, Kamala Harris says, or Donald Trump. So we got a few Trump words in there like horrible. She's just horrible. Borders are horrible. Abortion's going to be brought up, and that could be in the form of Roe v. Wade. Migrant crime, that's, I mean, you know, Trump has to be bringing up both of these. Inflation, illegal aliens, notice a lot about the border. What's going on, secret agent? Increased taxes. I think he needs to bring up the fact that she's going to increase taxes and he's going to decrease taxes. I put Afghan there just for Afghanistan pullout, the botched pullout. Grocery prices, insulin. Now, I put this here for Kamala because they haven't done anything in their presidency other than decrease the price of insulin, which, look, is a good thing. But they're going to say, well, we beat Big Pharma. I fought Big Pharma. No, you didn't. You decreased the price of insulin. Whoop-de-doo, that's awesome. But there's a lot of other drugs out there, Kamala. She's going to sit there and lie about Project 2025, so we got that one locked up. Lawsuits. Now, they're going to bring up Trump's lawsuits, and that's why I also have him as a convicted felon. It kind of goes hand in hand. But that one should be a shoo-in. And you're damn right, Trump 2024 is our free space. Okay? Trump 2024 is our free space. Come on. Crime. That could be anything. Democrat-ran areas, illegal alien crime, all that stuff. Now, I got migrant crime, so we got to be careful, but, you know, that's a safeguard. Convicted felon, she's going to throw that in there. ABC might go as far to bring that up. Radical, I think Donald Trump's going to call her radical. J6 is January 6th. I guarantee you ABC is going to bring this up. They just have to. Something about veterans might be in there. Fracking for sure. I think that's a shoo-in. IVF as well. No tax on tips. She copied me. I did it first. So that's what they're going to do. Disinformation is going to be brought up in some way, shape, or form. I'll go as far to use that block as misinformation as well. Biden cover-up. Please ask about how she covered up this guy's mental decline. Ugh. Lawyer. Now, this is for her. I didn't want to put prosecutor because it was too big of a word and it didn't look good on the bingo card. So just know, folks, if you're taking a screenshot of this or you want to play along, lawyer is prosecutor, okay? That's for her. And then somehow she's going to bring up black jobs and how she saved the blacks and all this other stuff with race doesn't mean anything. Black, Hispanic, Asian, white, no matter what you are. You're an American citizen, hopefully. I just turned on the show. It was a green screen with Brad's picture for a while. Yes, that's because it will do that when the show's upcoming. So I kind of hit the streaming for a while just to kind of get everybody in here. But look, we're here now. Oh, we are here. Look at that, folks. We got Kathleen with the $10. Thank you so much, and thumbs up to you. I appreciate that. God bless you. You're keeping the lights on here for us. Thank you so much. Jennifer with the $4.99 American. Oh, yeah. Did we get a triple salute that? Because there's 3 flags. I love that. I love the American flag. Let's go ahead and heart that one. And Kingdom becoming a member for 2 months. And look at that. You got the Don't Tread on Me badge, baby. That one looks good next to you. Look, Patriots, I appreciate that. We're dealing with Colomonomics. Maybe I should have put that on there. We should have got a bigger bingo card now I think about it. We're going to clean this. We're going to clean house. Look at the people rolling in on Rumble, folks. If you're just joining us, we got a bingo card. Play along. You can drink every time we get one. You're going to be schmammed. Let me tell you, that's like 25 shots right there, folks. Come on. Now, some of you are recovering. Okay, so if you want to have water, as I mentioned, I got mine. Okay, my water. I know I'm hashing this out. We'll go back to ABC in a second. Got my coffee. You guys know, at a Ball Bradshaw mug. If you don't have one of these, what are you doing? There's no proper time to wear the shirt than now. So Pat, Shib, I know you guys got shirts. And electrolytes, okay? And then if you guys don't have it yet, what are you doing? The popcorn. Yeah, it's good. Oh, it's good. Oh, that's like theater. My wife made it. It's the best. Okay, so we got the bingo card. Locked and loaded. So let's get rid of this. I'm going to need that. We will get that on the free space. It doesn't look good next to Trump. I'll put it up there for us now, just so we have it queued up for each other. Now, if I miss something, Patriots, I need you in the chat. You know, sometimes you're like, hey, we can call it, you know. Like, I might mess up here where, you know, heck, I don't know. I'm not going to mess up. I don't mess up, right? But maybe something about migrant crime. You know, I didn't cross that off. You got to have my back here, okay? So we got the bingo card. It's freaking geared up. I can't wait for this. We better clear it or else. So let's throw it in the chat. Let's throw it in the chat. We got enough people in here. We got like well over 100 people. Who do you think's going to win? Is it Donald? Put Trump if Trump's going to win, or Harris? Who do y'all have? Who do you guys have? You know what I said. You know what I said during the show. You know who I think's going to win. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it, okay? I'm voting for Trump, okay? I just want to throw that out there. I'm voting for Trump, okay? But who do you have? Let's throw up a poll here. Why not? Let's start a poll. Who wins tonight's debate? And we'll put in Trump. And then I'll put in Harris. You guys hit the poll. If you're over at Rumble, I apologize. I don't know. Can I do polls over at Rumble? Why don't we see if we can? Pop out. I cannot. I apologize. I cannot, okay? Don't judge me. They're working on it. Agent, my favorite morning mod. Got plenty of snacks. That's what I love to hear, Pat. Autumn, it's good to see you. Trump. Everyone's saying Trump. Okay, hey. Pat says Harris. Wow. Okay. What we got over here? 100% of you guys are saying Trump? Damn. What's going on? Jesus loving coffee mom. I love that name. Bless you. Eric Birch, Trump if he stays on politics. Look, that's a good take right there. That's a really good take, Eric. I'll tell you why. Because look, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to attack Kamala. He has so much ammo, it is head spinning. We got the economy. We got inflation. Afghanistan pullout. Foreign policy. Hell, why? Here's a question. Hey, Kamala, why are you giving the Iranians $10 billion? Why are they giving the Taliban I'm being generous, $87 million a week? And by the way, that is Daily Wire there on the left-hand side. That's Caleb. And I think the guy next to him, I'm not so sure. But that's actually Caleb with Daily Wire right there. Funny enough on the screen. Just tons of ammo. Hey, Brad, Trump got this. I love the passion, folks, and that's why we're at the Trump train, baby. Okay, over at Rumble, Jason says Harris isn't smart enough to tie her shoes. Damn, you think she's wearing Velcro or loafers? Karen Catmom says Trump. Mizzy says Trump as well. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, 100% over at YouTube. So we got a divided house somewhat. I mean, look, it's mostly everyone saying Trump's winning 100%, but I love it. Donnie, I can't wait to see Trump's expression. He makes me laugh. Absolutely. I love it. Like, when she just lies, that's why we got a few lies on there. I mean, Project 2025, I don't know how she's going to spin this stuff, but I just have a really strong feeling that ABC is going to sit there and cover for her. Let's see what they're saying right now.
It improved those numbers in the last two elections, but Kamala Harris has also improved her numbers tremendously from Biden from when before he dropped out of the race, but she still has not reached the amount of support that he had in 2020. So there's an opportunity for both Biden and for both Trump and Harris to capture the Latino vote.
Yeah, Harris is doing a lot better than President Biden was with this very key demographic. We were just talking about immigration, Maria. What about the views on immigration when it comes to these voters?
Well, for Latino voters, their views on immigration have shifted than they were in the last few elections. You know, now they support a more stricter laws, a more hardline approach toward immigration. And that is because usually the Democrats promised immigration reform, and Latinos were attracted to that promise, but that promise never materialized. Now they feel that the recent arrivals hurts not only their image, but they feel
recent arrivals. You see what they do? They're newcomers. Come on. Look, it's 30 minutes out, and they're already sitting there downplaying the immigration crisis, the invasion that's happening right now. It's unbelievable. And you think they're going to be unbiased during this freaking debate? Get out of here. Oh my goodness. It's already begun. We haven't freaking started yet. Unbelievable. We got Craig here. C.A. Commie Chameleon. Chameleon. She drove the state into the ground. Chameleon. You're correct, Craig. I love it, man. Tiananmen Square tampon Timmy. Jeez. We have the best community. Look at that. You can't make that up. Shout out to Craig there. CA Commie, California Commie Chameleon, Tiananmen Square tampon Timmy. That is a tongue twister. Holy lordy. We got Craig saying Commie, Chameleon. I love it. Absolutely correct. Donnie over there, the Mexican people are voting for Trump. Oh boy, in big numbers. That's for darn sure. Does she know that those are fake votes? And remember that we covered that today and yesterday as well, that there's illegals that are voting. I mean, they were moved off the voter registration rolls in Texas. We know that they're voting. Hell, a guy voted in 2016 and 2020 and was now going to trial or going to court, however you want to phrase it, for illegally voting in 2 elections. And remember, for years, it's the most freest and fair election that's ever existed. What's going on, Javi? I better be on your big screen TV. It's like they're voting. We've seen it proof again that they're voting. Don't get me going. Folks, we haven't started yet. We still got 30 minutes and I can't be doing my rants just yet. She told the Haitians to come and they are eating our pets. Yes, we covered that this morning. Folks, there's videos of these illegal, I should say illegal, sorry. They're not. They're actually here under her watch. Okay, we'll put it that way. They're freaking grilling cats and dogs. They're going to local ponds and freaking parks, like residential parks, and taking the ducks and the geese and cutting their heads off there and leaving them behind. They're grilling people's cats. And Democrats like, it must stop. It's so terrible. Oh, God. Who did you vote for? That's all I want to hear. Who'd you vote for? If you voted Democrat, I don't want to hear a damn complaint from your mouth. You voted for it. This is what happens. I would like an apology at some point in time. We're not going to get one. My dogs are voting for Trump. Yeah. The dogs are now wearing freaking MAGA hats. You know what I mean? The cats and dogs. Oh, God, it's terrible. Have you guys seen the Trump memes that are going around the internet right now with all the cats and stuff? Let me see if I can pull it up for y'all. It's hilarious. It's great. It's great. We got a lot of people over at Twitter. I see you folks on Twitter. Don't worry. I see you. I'm glad you're here with us. Let's see. Trump cats. Let's pull it up for all of you. Look at this. Oh, yeah. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Cats for Trump. Meow. Love it. Love it. There was the video. Where's the video clip? I want to see Trump. Isn't AI unbelievable? Look at this. Isn't it unbelievable? Trump does everything, man. As I mentioned, where's PETA at on this? You guys, again, we talked about it this morning. They were complaining about the fact that there was freaking animals locked in cages on an animal cracker box. And they sat there and said, we can't do it. They're behind cages. It's barbaric. Take it off. So they sat there and rebranded the whole thing, right? They redid the whole animal cracker box so that the animals aren't behind cages anymore, that they're free, they're roaming free. But yet, these same people vote to have animals, cats, dogs, ducks, birds, like full-fledged just pigeons, full-fledged feathering these things, boiling them, grilling them on barbecuers. Hey, Mom, where's Mitzi? Mom, where's Mitzi? As you see the Haitian out there on the rotisserie barbecue. Oh, I don't know. I think he ran away. Look, you're here for entertainment, are you not? Are you not entertained? Look at this. Look at this, Trump. It just keeps going. Oh, yeah. Who's not I'm an animal lover. Look at those kitties. MAGA, baby. MAGA. Oh, you love. Can we hold on a second? This is going to be good. This has to be good.
What in the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets. My God. Are you okay, Mr. Chairman? Because last year, for a very long time, you tweeted and promoted Kanye West as he was calling for genocide against the Jews, and you kept it up. And now when we have victims coming here, you're tweeting this nonsense. I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay. I don't know if the aliens who are eating your ducks are in the room with us right now, but Mr. Chairman.
Yo, I'm not kidding. For the longest thing, I thought this was AI. I think this actually might be real. Is this real? I thought, they took the guy's voice and modded it, but no, dude, this looks real.
This is a serious issue. These people have loved ones who have been lost, and you tweeted this.
Yo, I thought this was fake. Is this real? It's real. Oh, what? What? That was real. That's wow. Okay. All right. I thought it was just I thought it was fake. I thought it was AI, like this right here. This is too good. Look at that. Oh my God. The Haitians running after Trump. So anyways, that's been going viral. As you can see, it's just endless. AI is only getting better. Yes. Trump 2024, kissing the duck. Isn't it amazing, AI? You guys, can you imagine the time that we live in? Unbelievable. Just unbelievable stuff happening here. Let's tune back into a little bit of Fox News this time, and let's see what they're saying over there.
Before and since then as well. So that's what she inherits. She's got to rise. She's got to add to that. That's the challenge for her.
Oh, 23 minutes from now, we will see.
Thanks for gifting the memberships, by the way. Greatly appreciated. Eric Birch gifted one Bald Brad membership. Greatly appreciated, sir. Thank you so much. Somebody swooped up on that quick.
The countdown to the debate is on. Sean Hannity joins us live from the spin room. Coming up next.
Now, while we're waiting, let's go over a little bit of what Kamala Harris's policies are. There aren't any. That's really what it comes down to. Now, let's talk about taxes, because this affects all of us here, and we'll just kind of keep this rolling while we're waiting. They have the increase in taxes overall. So this could happen even though Donald Trump goes in office. The reason why, I believe it's Congress that has to extend the tax cuts that Donald Trump put in that saved Americans about 3% on average, which is great for everybody, right? You got your child tax credits. They sat there and took your personal exemption and funneled that into your standardized deduction. Your standardized deduction increase. Like it was primarily a really good thing for Americans, unless you made more money, which God forbid, you're making more money. Then you would jump into the next bracket. Well, that's all going bye-bye. Okay, so you're all about to get reamed left and right because you lose that child tax credit. I think it goes down like $500 or something like that. Right now, it's $2,000 per kid. You're going to lose a lot of the credits, the deductions in general. I don't know if the standard deductions revert back and the exemptions and all that stuff. Kamala Harris gets in office. Start saving now because you're going to owe a lot more, let me tell you. So not only does she want to sit there and she's going to give people $25,000 for her first-time home buyers, whoop-de-doo, that doesn't do anything. Matter of fact, it actually inflates the market because people know they're going to get $25,000. So people are going to charge just $25,000 more for the very property that they're selling because they know they can get it because it's subsidized by the government. But case in point, who the hell has money to buy a house right now, Kamala? It was like that whole idea. Remember when the economy was terrible? It still is. And people couldn't afford gas because it was like $7 or $8 in California. It was like $5 or $6 in your guys' areas. And nobody could afford it. And the energy secretary comes out and goes, well, just buy a Tesla. Do you guys remember that? She goes, buy a Tesla. If they can't afford gas, why would they be able to afford a $60,000 vehicle that they would have to buy on interest and finance? These people aren't with us. They don't get it. They're not with us, folks. So the taxes are going to increase about 3%. So get ready for that one. You're probably talking about $1,500 per American household or more. So she's going to do that, but she's also going to increase your capital gains tax. So if you plan on retiring soon, have fun with that one on that money pullout. I would sit there and wait till her ass is gone. And this one's wild. She wants to increase the capital gains, the unrealized capital gains, to be specific, from 0%, nobody's done it, to 25%. And what's remarkable is they're sitting there swindling everybody going, oh, well, it's kind of already in effect. It's kind of already happening. It's called property taxes. Property taxes is basically an unrealized gain. I'm hit with property tax if my freaking property depreciates. Don't give me that. Where's the gain on it? I'm paying property tax whether I have an appreciated asset or a depreciated asset. Doesn't matter. You're going to hit me with a tax. Well, it's a property tax on unrealized gain. It's a use tax, okay? That's really what it is, because that goes to paying for schools and other things. Hey, what's going on, Robert? Good to see you. Like he's saying, everybody, look at the Patriots. That's what we're called, the Patriots, baby. So now they're saying for now, it's for anybody that's making in total income as well as capital gains, anybody that's doing over 100 million. Okay, that's not a big portion of the population, to be fair. But here's the thing. Once you drive out those people, because it decentivizes a lot of things, then who else are they going to go to after when they know they can actually implement this in a very crafty and wisey way? All of us are going to get effed. You love that, right? They did the same thing when they hired the 84,000 IRS agents going, no, it's okay. It's okay. They're just going to go after the wealthy. They're not going to touch you. Once they're done auditing the wealthy, who do you think they're going to go after? All of us. So that's the tax. It's loony. It's psycho. It's crazy. But Democrats will still vote for it. If you're a Democrat that weaseled your way into the chat, welcome. You can hang out with us, but we're going to slam Kamala Harris right upside her damn head. And I hope Trump does it for us. Now, YouTube said 100% rate that Trump is going to win. And this kind of brings up my case in point, what I think is going to happen tonight. The bar is set so low for Kamala. It's just like Joey. She just has to show up, do a mediocre job, explain her policies, slam Trump a couple times, and she wins. Trump has to have a perfect night. Just because everybody already has the expectation of him punching through Joe Biden's chest, through the entire Democrat Party and deep state, enough where they got rid of the guy. And, well, here we are. Middle class always holds its ankles. You are correct. That is a great way of putting it. And boy, oh boy, shall we hold on this coming election. We got to be holding on tight. NorCal, how's it quite going? I'm reading the chat, folks. Kamala needs to buckle up and put her short yellow bus helmet on. Oh, I don't think you'll be able to get through the door. Trump's going to take taxes off my Social Security. Hopefully. Now, if you're just joining us again, folks, welcome. Hit that like button, folks. Hit that like button. Let me see how many likes we have right now. Look, there's almost 60 people in here, and we only have 34 likes. Bing Bong said, well, to be fair, there's some pretty big sampling bias in that poll. Yeah, there's some sampling bias. Yeah, you're definitely going to get that, because whenever you're doing an observation, it's tough to remove the bias in it. So, and not to mention, it's really hard to sit there and stop people from lying in general, too. So you're not really getting much from an observational study at the end of the day. Again, over at Rumble, if you could smash that like button, it does support us tremendously. It doesn't cost you a dime. It just supports it. So again, smash that like button. Share this with your friends and family if you can. Let's tune in here and see what Fox News is saying. We will be live streaming ABC News. Don't worry. Again, we have it queued up right here for all of you. 17 minutes. Now, matter of fact, let's see what Hannity's saying, and then I'm going to bring up the bingo card. If you're just joining us, we have a bingo card all set for you.
Stories on ABC's World News Tonight, hosted by David Muir. 100% positive coverage for Kamala, 93% negative coverage for Donald Trump.
That's wild.
That will be on display. They have their own issues that they will deal with, because look, we're a pretty divided country. Half the country would be very unhappy if, in fact, they spend their time going after Donald Trump. And more importantly, if they don't do the job of asking the questions that Kamala Harris and her team have been ducking and dodging and avoiding the entire time. What is so, I think that there's been a great disservice to her by her campaign by not allowing her to do more interviews. 16 minutes and 29 seconds. That was not particularly impressive to me. With her safety blanket with her Tim Walz. I was not impressed. Her saying, well, my values are the same, doesn't answer if she supports the Green New Deal, banning fracking and drilling, and the elimination.
That would have been a good one for the bingo card, the Green New Deal. Damn it.
Healthcare, education, and everything else. Now sex change operations for illegals and convicted felons. These are real.
We'll put that with illegal aliens. You know, we might as well touch on the board right now. Let's get to it. So if you're just joining us, again, we do a bingo card. We'll have this set for the entire night. Can I get this off this? There we go. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, here's the bingo card. Let's zoom in really quick. If you want to take a photo of it, you can in just one moment. Because, look, I want to make sure I don't miss this stuff, Patriots. We got the border czar. I think Trump's going to call her that. And I got a few words that I think will come out of Trump's mouth, like, horrible. She was just absolutely horrible. Abortion's going to be brought up. Even if they bring up Roe v. Wade, that counts. Migrant crime, inflation, illegal aliens, increased taxes. So when Hannity was just talking about all that stuff, I think we can classify it as illegal aliens. I think we can have a shoe in there. Increased taxes, that could be under capital gains, whatever it's going to be. Afghanistan pullout, that's what Afghan is. Grocery prices increasing, insulin. I think Trump will bring up that in some way, shape, or form. If he doesn't, then Kamala Harris 100% will, because they haven't done anything during her administration other than decrease the price of insulin. Project 2025, she's going to lie about that because that's her policy. It's on her website. And she's saying it's Donald Trump's Project 2025, even though he's like, I don't know what the hell that is, Kamala. Lawsuits, I think ABC is going to bring that up, or Kamala will. Kamala will bring up the fact he's a convicted felon. Crime can go any direction. Trump crime, the Biden family crime cover-up, all that stuff. Okay, so that's just kind of a loose one for us. That's kind of a give me. Radical, I think Donald Trump's going to call her radical. J6, I think ABC is going to bring that up, or Kamala Harris. How could she not? Veterans in some way, shape, or form. Fracking, because Kamala Harris is a reed in the wind on that one. IVF, oddly enough, is a really hot button issue. I don't know why, to be honest. No tax on tips. Disinformation, we can also classify it as misinformation or censorship. I'm going to throw that in there as well. Biden cover-up. Please, can I get that one? Please, somebody bring up the fact that she covered up his cognitive decline. Lawyer, this is for her. This is also her being a prosecutor, okay? Prosecutor is too big of a word, so I use lawyer. And then somehow they always have to bring in the African Americans, the black job. So if they even bring up black people, we're checking that off. So again, nothing against black people. Again, race doesn't have anything to do with anything, but for some reason, for the Democrat Party, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. So we got that squared away. We got that locked and loaded for all of you. So we will be bringing that in when we need to. And I'll minimize that. Oop. So that's what we have going on, Patriots. I hope you like it. I hope you like it. I had a pallet of beer and a pallet of popcorn delivered this afternoon. I'm set to suffer heels up hair. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, let's go through the spread, folks. We got 12 minutes before this kicks off. I will, right before it kicks off, use the restroom myself, let the room air out a little bit because it's hotter than Africa in here. Hotter than the Haitians. And then we'll get going here. Again, make sure you guys have everything you need, right? Get the water, okay? Get the ice water if you got it. If you haven't gotten your brew, now's the time. Now this could be your little drink of choice, whiskey, Bailey's, whatever you're drinking. The electrolytes, stay a little healthy, folks. And if you haven't already, look, I'll be the popcorn is so good. So, got the popcorn. Hotter than yeah, exactly. Hotter than the Haitian. Chris Moore says, I don't need the bingo card. I'm just going to drink. Well, Chris is going to be smashed tonight. He's going to be face down, ass up. Good for him. Brad, you're awesome. See, Chris is already drunk. But no, you guys are awesome. I keep saying that. That's why we're here, because you guys show up. Now, I would be doing this by myself, to be fair, but it makes it so much better that we have a community here, and the chat is just blowing up right now, and I love it. I love it. Terry here says, Robert, I believe she will too. Well, what did Robert say? Robert says, I say she cries. You think Kamala Harris is going to cry? God, could you imagine? Oh, geez, Q1969. Easy, settle down. Javier says, put you on my TV. See you later, brother. See you later, Javi. Put me on the surround sound. Already 3 in. Oh, my goodness. Look. Hey, I think some of you need to go to Rumble, because I feel like you're going to be saying some things in this chat that's not going to be exactly, well, yeah. Emerson says, cringing Kamala bingo classic. You the man, BB. No, you guys are the man. Honestly, it's freaking awesome you guys are staying here. Brad, are you staying up for post-debate? And we can if you guys want. Look, if you guys are staying in here with me, we could look at post-debate analysis for sure. We could tune in the Fox or whatever, see what everybody's saying. Maybe raid somebody else's stream and see what's going on. It's up to you guys. If we got people here, we'll do it. It's a work night too, come on. But look, this is one of the biggest nights of the year. Look, honestly, this debate night is, quite frankly, one of the biggest nights of the year other than really the election. So, you know, we got to go full blown, right? We got to go full blown. Found a new drinking buddy. So again, if you haven't already, folks, smash that like button for us. It helps people find us. The more people that like it, what it does is it shows engagement, and it will send my video out there to more people. So that'd be greatly appreciated, both Rumble and YouTube. We also got a lot of people over at Twitter. Give people over at Twitter a shout out. We got people streaming over there. That is always awesome to see. We got Leslie always tagging our stuff. I will give Leslie a shout out, actually. Leslie here is always dropping us a huge shout outs on X, you guys. So really appreciate Leslie. We're always there in the list that she displays. She posts our show every single morning on her Twitter feed right there. Really appreciate that, Leslie. Thank you so much for always giving us a shout out. So I'll make sure I give her a shout out. Always trying to show the love back. And yeah, it's always cool to see fellow Patriots tagging us. That's nice. I have to work tomorrow, so no drinking games for me. Yep, exactly. I got work tomorrow too. No drinky, just water, coffee, electrolytes, and a little bit of the popcorn. Oh, I was going to try to see what they're saying. They're not saying anything. They're showing grocery ads. Who can afford groceries right now? Craig is eating pizza. Got pizza at the ready. Loaded meat, peppers, onions, mushrooms, the works. He's getting that supreme. I'm sure I'll work up an appetite suffering through Kamala. Let's hope Trump wins. I'm getting kind of nervous. I'll be honest. I'm getting a little nervous for this debate, folks. I know I shouldn't be, but I am. I want Trump to win. Now, if you didn't know my prediction, I know you're not going to like it. I think Kamala Harris is going to win. The reason why I say this is because the bar is so low. I am praying Trump doesn't attack her. Please, please, please just stay on point. If he does what he did during Joe Biden, I will be very happy. What he did was he stood on point while Joe Biden sat there off his rocker and stuttered and everything. He didn't attack him, but she knows how to pry. She knows how to sit there and just take the dagger and just twist it and not stop. That's what she's going to do to Trump. I hope I'm wrong, and I will say that I'm wrong. I will eat my damn words. I got no qualms with it. But at least you guys know I'm being honest. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting there pandering to y'all. 100% of our chat said that they think it's going to be Trump winning. So I'm going against the grain. I think Pat was with me and maybe some other person. Here is Georgia. Eggs are $5 a dozen. Going to Georgia. I think ours is more than $5. But damn. Still pricey. Does anyone think Kamala Harris was given or okay. Oh, given. Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else with that one. Given or gave questions ahead of time. I think she got questions ahead of time, to be honest. Remember, the reason why I go back is, like, if you remember 2016, there was rumors that Hillary Clinton, like, they weren't supposed to get the questions ahead of time, and it came out that she did actually have the questions. So, liar, liar, pants on fire, right? So, commercial break right now. Let's see what's going on over at ABC. I'm going to post ABC. I'm going to use the restroom really quick. I will be back. Not going anywhere. Getting everything set up. And we will be back, folks. I'll keep this rolling.
Respect for Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton was smart as you were preparing. What about Kamala Harris? We hear not the same.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly. I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020. And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about getting ready for Joe Biden. I think performances in both those debates reflected that approach.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate, so let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly of the DNC, and Reince Priebus, the RNC. Welcome to both of you. And Donna, let's start with you. You have said that Kamala Harris has to own the future, but she also has to own the past. So how does she do this?
It's quite easy. Because I do believe that in talking about the future, you draw from your past. You draw from your past experiences. She draws from how she was raised, the values that was instilled in her as a young lady. Look, she is steady on her feet, still in her resolve. And tonight she should talk to the American people, sit in their living rooms, go to their kitchen table and say, look, I have some ideas that I want to share with you. There's so much that we have done together over the last 4 years, but here's what I think we can do together over the next 4 years. Be positive in her approach and really remind the American people that we don't want to go back to the chaos and the confusion, the disaster that made, of course, the American people go out in droves in 2020 to fire the former president. Say, I want to be a president that lead all Americans. I want to keep us strong and secure, and here's the plan that I want to share with you tonight.
And Donna, I of course meant Biden. She has to own up to the Biden administration's any mistakes they made too, and Donald Trump is going to go after her on that.
You know, Martha, they made mistakes. Donald Trump and Mr. Pence made mistakes. But you know what? If we focus on our mistakes, we won't focus on all of the good things that we could do together as Americans. I do believe there's something to say about people who are now able to work. The people who can buy their insulin without paying over $1,000, $35. There's so much good that she can talk about from the visits that she's made to small towns across this country, large cities across the country. Bring us together. The American people want to be led into the future, not dragged back to another era.
And Reince, I want your thoughts on, you've also prepped Donald Trump for debates back in 2016, I believe. What Donald Trump do you think we'll see tonight? Can he be disciplined about talking about policies and what kind of president he will be?
Well, he certainly can be. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to lose tonight. I mean, his support has always been almost role in the Biden administration, the border, you know, her past positions on decriminalizing the border, decriminalizing certain drugs, what her role was in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played a role in the Biden administration. She wants to act like she's not an incumbent. So this is where the focus is going to be. And she's got a lot to answer for tonight. And I think that's where Donald Trump's focus will be and where it actually should be tonight.
Well, one of the things he wants to do is have female voters look at him. How does he attract female voters after saying things about Kamala Harris? And we'll see how he pronounces that tonight. Things he said about Kamala Harris, that she's dumb as a rock. That's not really going to attract female voters, is it?
Yeah, no, it won't. But I also think that just like he did in the first debate against Joe Biden, I think the formula here is to constantly tie Kamala Harris to the Biden administration, which is where Trump is winning against her on the economy, inflation, and all these other problems that we're having, and then sit back and let her talk. Let her explain herself, her past positions, current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? How does she feel about the border? Then turn it over and let her talk.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Donna and Reince. We're all staying tuned. Can't wait.
And I have to say, as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this such an extraordinary moment, and especially, Rachel, when you consider that these two people that have been the center of our lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And Harris said, if you got something to say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned her intelligence as well. Or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're likely going to have in this race. It will be interesting to see if Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needling coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet for the first time?
We didn't back in 2016 when I did that debate. We'll stand by to see that tonight. But the first time, side to side, together.
And I have my doubts that we're going to see that handshake, but what we are going to see is a spirited debate
30 seconds.
and perhaps the most consequential general election debate we have ever seen, because almost certainly going to be the last one. So with the stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away, we have the entire news division keeping an eye on everything. We are going to be fact-checking on our live blog. It's all going to be happening right here. The debate now just 10 seconds away, and we will be back with our post-game show as soon as it's over. We are going to toss it right now to David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face. Historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage.
Uh-oh. What's going on? Did their stream shut down? Their website get freaking DDoSed? That's weird.
Fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion. One of them is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
That's right.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Oh, shut up.
And when you look at
What an
his
idiot.
economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
No, it's not.
I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have
Says the
described
president exploded
his
deficit.
economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is
Says
more
a lady
interested in defending
that didn't have
himself
policies
than
on
he
her
is in
website.
looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
Correct.
Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Unbiased, well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies.
Here you go.
And that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Here we go.
She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't
She's
want
trying to bait
that.
him.
And I pledge to you,
Trump.
when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Yep.
The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
There you go.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond. But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans.
You guys.
Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question,
you
would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
She's baiting him. Don't do it,
And
Trump.
I will tell you,
It's
the
all
one thing
bait.
you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires.
Stay on immigration,
And I'll tell you,
Trump.
I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and
Stay
I
on
pledge to you
immigration,
that
dude.
I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating.
Why is she laughing?
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people are on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
3v1.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what
she said a fucking litany of lies and didn't say a damn
Talk
thing.
about extreme. You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him.
They're not going to call her
His
bullshit.
former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
Let's see if they call her
His
out on that
former
one. Now I'm
national
pissed.
security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody.
He needs to turn it back
at the
on
economy.
her.
Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
He needs to turn it back on her.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
20 million.
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Oh,
but
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond.
Check on her.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out.
Talk about she's
it's
in office
weaponization,
now.
And they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military, understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
we do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work, to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Whoa! Whoa!
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, They got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof.
There you go.
They
Good.
immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our
January
democracy
6th.
and the
This is a
role of a
setup.
president in a moment of crisis.
It's a setup.
Mr. President, on January 6th,
There
you
you
told
go.
your supporters to march
I
to the
told
Capitol.
you.
You said you would be right there with them.
He said
the
peaceful.
country and the world saw
Don't
what
wanna
played out at
include
the
that.
Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing
There you
people
go.
that she
Good.
allowed to pour in?
Good.
She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to
There you
be
go.
prosecuted? Or in
Correct.
Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
Exactly.
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything
See
you
all the
regret
follow-ups,
about
but
what
no
you
follow-ups
did
on
on that
Kamala.
day?
Fucking amazing.
Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker
There's the
Pelosi. But
follow-up.
I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you fucking do.
I was at the
Sorry, I'm
Capitol on
cussing,
January
I'm pissed.
6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob
Oh, God.
to attack
Unbelievable.
our nation's capital,
I told you this is going to be a setup,
to
you guys.
desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died.
No, they
And
didn't. It's a
understand,
lie.
the former
follow-up.
president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville,
Oh, God.
where
Here we
there
go
was
again.
a mob of people carrying
comes the
tiki
lies.
torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Let's see if they have any follow-ups
And what
here.
did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Bring up Snopes' article.
Let's
ABC.
remember that when it
No
came to the
follow-up. Of
Proud
course
Boys,
not.
a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law.
Oh, God.
And to end the chaos.
Says the lady allowing tons of crime
and
to flourish.
end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
Oh,
if
God,
this
here we
and the
go
outcome
again.
of this election is not
No
to his
follow-up,
liking.
though. No follow-up on the lies.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
Exactly.
Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills.
There you go.
They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
This is fucking
in the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said there was no
we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now
is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden
like he's not in the fucking
and yourself.
Room. Unbelievable.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote.
This is wild.
Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
This is wild.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about
this
fact.
is what you get from legacy
That's
media, you guys.
That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy.
There you go.
He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office.
There you go.
And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is up.
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. What? It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent, And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution
I didn't pause it. That's their shitty stream.
Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I'm frustrated. Let's recap this real quick. It's 3v1. I said this was going to happen. I said they were going to be biased. I said they're going to bring up January 6th. I said they're going to bring up his freaking conviction. I said they're going to bring up all that stuff. And why? Because they did it in the last debate. And this one, they're not being as crafty with it. They're just out there in the open. Oh, well, fact-checking him on stuff. There's not a fucking word from them from Kamala Harris. There's not a damn word from them about her failure at the border. Where's the 350,000 children? Nobody wants to talk about that. It's unbelievable. The murders, the fentanyl. She brings up the fentanyl. Oh, people are dying everywhere. You're in freaking office. Unbelievable. The sex trafficking, the rapes, the gang violence, the drugs, the freaking taking over of people's houses. It's endless and no follow-ups. Oh, January 6th, Charlottesville, your convictions, you're a felon. I told you she was going to pull that shit. Did I not, folks? Did I not? You're damn right I'm pissed right now. I'm going on a little bit of a rant. Did I not say she was going to be like, oh, Donald, oh, it's just, you're so weird. Did I not, is she not just giving that face and that vibe the entire time? Did we not call that she was going to do that? I'm fired up, man. Brian says she's tapping into the low information voter that the legacy media and propagandize. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's correct. No follow-ups, though, right? Nothing about her record. Nothing about record inflation. Nothing about the economy, the grocery prices. Nobody can afford gas. No, hey, botched Afghanistan pullout. No follow-ups there. This is what you get from the legacy media, and Democrats will sit there, go, oh, God, this is great. Look at her. And I'm more pissed at Trump right now because he sat there and he took he's taking the bait on this stuff, right? The 400 million from he needs to sit there and stay on point and stop taking the freaking bait on everything she's throwing at him. He needs to realize what she's doing. It's all part of the strategy to sit there and entice him. He gets 2 minutes to talk. He's wasting 30, 45 seconds on some bullshit that's obviously false, and he keeps doing it. And it's frustrating the hell out of me. He needs to bring it back to her. You're in office now. Why don't you fix it, Kamala? You're in office now with your boss. Why don't you go do it right now? Why don't you fix the border? Why don't you fix the economy? Why don't you fix her this or that? That's what he needs to be doing, but he's not. I'm frustrated, man. This is a big-ass debate. It's one thing if some people could sit there and read between the lines and know that she's bullshitting, blowing smoke up all their asses, but they don't. They still think Donald Trump is back in Project 2025. No follow-up there, right? No follow-up. The fact that she brought that up going, excuse me, ma'am, Miss Vice President, yeah, he's come out and was very clear on the fact that he's not with Project 2025. No follow-ups. I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but look, am I the only one that's seeing this? The shenanigans? Megyn Kelly saw it. Megyn Kelly was spot on in her analysis. So clearly I'm not the only one that's seeing this bleep. This tweet right here, every single question is about Trump controversies, putting him on the hot seat on them, and then a follow-up to her to let her dump on him for 2 minutes. Did we not call this shit during our show in the last month knowing that this was going to happen? We said it would happen, and now we're at here. Now we're here. I'm so tired of the media. I'm so tired of the media. Trump is winning the debate, the moderators are helping him by being, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening. But I appreciate the opinion nonetheless, Jeff. You know that. I think Trump is losing right now. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, because I'm right. This doesn't look good right now, just to let you know. This is not looking good for Trump. They're ganging up on him big, and that's why they're bringing up all these negatives, which is a remarkable thing, a mix of every negative you could do that you've heard me rattle off for 6 minutes, and I can keep going for 10. Remember the, how about, hey, Dan, how about this, Dan? Remember that whole episode, that whole spiel? We can go on 10 minutes of just listing stuff off the top of my head of the failures of this administration. People were falling from the skies of Afghanistan. No talk about it. Where's the conversation about giving the Taliban $87 million? Where's the conversation about giving the Iranians $10 billion? No follow-ups, no care in the world.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives. Millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for $250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interests for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you
Not me, it's them. Let me see if I can refresh it.
First hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Nope.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers.
There's another lie.
And the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal. And in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his
This is
career,
remarkable.
attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Oh, shit.
You know, I
Shut
do
up.
believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race.
This
and
is
let's
such
remember
a setup. It's insane.
how Donald Trump started. He was he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
What?
Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse?
It's unbelievable. And their shitty ass stream. I know it ain't me. I got Google Fiber, man.
Of people's color or the
I could run,
language
like,
their
20
grandmother
streams, it'd be
speaks. We
fine.
all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty.
He's buying into the bait again.
And I said,
Here we
well,
go.
if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond because the former president has said something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're going to move on, Vice President Harris. President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run health care system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time.
It sucks.
When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't.
Yep.
No, you don't.
Screwed over everybody.
No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass as
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing.
ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
What was that all about? They just cut it. They cut him off.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
That wasn't me. I didn't cut him off. You are seeing a shakedown. You are seeing the efforts of legacy media to make him look bad.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Hey, figure out their stream. Yeah, live set. Man, this is unbelievable what you're seeing. Again, I'm gonna repeat this. We said it was gonna happen. We shouldn't be surprised. I'm frustrated as hell. They're sitting there, 3v1, formulating questions. Oh, corruption. Oh, Donald Trump, tell us about January 6th, how you egged them on, fact-checking the guy. But they don't want to sit there and call all the bullshit lies that are coming out of her mouth left and right. I'm disgusted too. I'm right there with you. Very rarely does politics actually piss me off, but I'm so pissed right now, it's mind-bending. I hate to say it, you guys. Trump is losing. I know some of you disagree. That's great. What network is this? It's ABC. It's owned by Walt Disney Company. Well, you're seeing the disgusting politics from her, right? I mean, she doesn't surprise me, right? She's from my home state of California. I told you she was going to come out, right, without that word salad BS that she's been polling. I told everybody this is what was going to happen, that don't be fooled by her acting like Bozo the Clown, an idiot for all these years. She's crafty. She's a politician. She's a snake, and it's disgusting. This is exactly how politicians act. And the fact that she's getting away with this is because the media is allowing her to get away with it. They'll sit there and call Trump out on all his negative stuff, but they don't want to call her out on any of her negative shit, which you have years, decades going back to. Hey, where's Joe Biden's cognitive decline? Why'd you cover that one up? By the way, the reason why they front-loaded all of Trump's negative stuff is because nobody watches at the tail end, you guys. Everybody goes to bed. It's like 10:40 across the country. Other people are going to sleep. They already got the negative stuff out there. All this other stuff that's left over for the next 20 minutes is meaningless, by the way. People don't stay up to watch it. It's all manipulation. Don't want to bring up the 350,000 children. Don't want to bring up the 250,000 Americans that are dead from fentanyl. Don't want to bring up the violent gang members. Don't want to bring up anything. Anything negative from her. You were president. Again, where's the question of you? Why didn't you solve it now? Why didn't you just do it now? You're in the office now. They don't want to do their job. No, it's just easier to go after Trump for January 6th, election interference, election fraud, his court cases. You think there's not? By the way, there's not going to be another debate after this. This is it. This is it. This was the whole purpose. This was the whole shakedown to get them in cahoots with her, to make him look bad as much as terrible and as much as possible. You're not going to see another debate. I will be freaking shocked. I hope I eat my words, but it ain't going to happen. This is it. Right? You already saw them front loading it. Oh, this is the last debate before the election. They're front loading it for a reason. They knew going into this that they were going to sit there and do what they're doing. Krager says it right here. She showed up as good as the left could hope for. Yep. No follow-ups, no questions about her record, as a vice president running this country into the ground. Nothing. No interrupting her. No going, oh, well, I'm sorry, right? Nobody turns to your station. Your station sucks. The only reason we're here is because we have to be. I wish CNN was here in KCMO. I would have been there already. She had the questions, maybe. But she's doing that whole thing, right? You know those psycho girls that sometimes you would date back when you were a teenager, and they're crazy progressives. Oh, it's just, we can't be doing that to the country. Talk about lady, right, going for an abortion that was on some bus next to strangers. Like, who the hell talks like that? You guys remember her saying that like an hour ago? Oh, there's people traveling across different states on bus and train next to strangers that they don't recognize in horrible conditions.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay?
I don't know what the hell is going on with their stream, man. This is wild.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans.
No, you don't.
And focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
Exactly.
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone to have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments. I'm Martha Raddatz. It was a
dog shit debate is what it was. Terrible. I don't mean to cuss, but it was. It was horrible. I want to check out what Daily Wire's saying here.
In one of his debates with Hillary Clinton, and Trump took on all comers. Here, he was fact-checked, maybe on 50% of the questions that he was asked. He never once...
Even when they lied. And they lied explicitly.
Openly lied. He never once challenged them. On the whole, I think a pretty difficult night.
So here's my take on this particular debate. We're going to talk about it a lot today. We'll talk about it a lot tomorrow. And a week from now, it's not going to matter at all. And the reason it's not going to matter at all is because nothing fundamentally changed here. The people of America still don't know Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has not done his job in making sure that the people of America actually know anything about her positions. 30% of Americans say they don't know anything about her positions, and they still don't know anything about her positions because the moderators never pressed her on any of her positions, and Donald Trump didn't either. On Donald Trump's side of the aisle, Donald Trump did not perform tonight. He didn't do an amazing job calling her on her BS. The best thing he said all night was his closing statement, which is what he should have opened with. Exactly. He closed with, why didn't you do it? That should have been the very first thing he said in the debate. And the fact that that wasn't what he said right off the top was a mistake. He was also incredibly distractible tonight. He took the bait on nearly every question.
I told you.
Every time she said something that you knew was going to get his goat, he just let it happen. So, for example, when she gave him the bait on his crowd sizes, on people are leaving your crowds, they're leaving your rallies, he couldn't resist going after her about the crowd size. What about January 6th? About the election of 2020? These are all distractions. The only thing that mattered tonight for Donald Trump was defining her, and he did not define her, which means that I still check the calendar. We still have a couple months till the election. She is going to have to be defined. The big takeaway from this is not going to be about Trump, who still remains Trump. And it's really not going to be about Harris, who performed the best I think it's possible for Kamala Harris to perform, which is to say she was fairly obnoxious. She lied.
So his assessment is exactly what we were saying here. Look, Trump didn't do what he needed to do. And the point that he needed to be on was not taking the bait and sticking to her failures, because he knew that the legacy media, and the reason why I say legacy media is because you're looking at ABC, who's a part of the legacy media, sitting there doing the work of Democrats, and it was going to be 3v1. He knew that. It was all strategy. It was all orchestrated. It was all written. It was all planned. He should have known this was going to happen. And look, in my opinion, he didn't win the debate. That's my opinion. I know people don't want to hear it, but let's do a poll. Let's see what the Patriots think of this. So we got like 100 people in here. Let's see. Who won? Trump or Kamala? Let's do the poll. Let's see. So 100% of Patriots said that Trump was going to win. That was the poll. Let's see. Now, don't let your bias seep in, you guys. Like, we all love Trump, okay? We all love Trump. Duh. But I'm curious. And then over at Rumble, type Trump if you think he won. So who won? Trump or Kamala?
Single thing that she did the entire night. And actually, that helps Trump. And it helps Trump for a very simple reason. If you are a Trump fan, and if you think that Trump didn't actually perform unbelievably well tonight, which I think is true, I don't think he did an amazing job tonight, the easy out is, yeah, because the media were targeting him. And if you're a moderate watching this, I think that it had to be apparent, even to moderates, even to independents.
I hope so.
The media want Kamala Harris elected. They're doing their best to make sure that Kamala Harris is elected. So tomorrow, we'll revert right back to where we were before this debate. We'll revert right back to Kamala Harris is vibes, and she is joy, and she is policy vagary, and she'll never answer another question. She's going to try and get all the way from here to the election without ever answering another question. There will be no more debates. She's going to declare that she won. The media will declare that she won and that Trump lost. Trump really has no interest in doing another debate, because I frankly don't think that it's in his interest to do another debate at this point. So that was the last presidential debate of this election cycle. The bottom line is that when all is said and done, it seems like a lot of this is baked into the cake. And in the moment, it's uncomfortable because it was such an opportunity. You know, if you're like me and you're sitting there, you're like leaping out of your seat. Why won't he just say it? Why won't he just say it? It's very frustrating. She will say something about how race shouldn't divide us. And you're sitting there going, what the actual living, like, you are a case in point of a person who divides based on race. It's what you do for a living. It's how you became vice president of the United States.
Correct.
She will say things about Afghanistan. They'll ask her about whether she has any regrets, and she'll say no. And instead of him coming back and saying, don't you regret the 13 dead American soldiers whose families you ignored? You're just waiting for him to take the opening. But the problem was that he had been set off earlier in the debate. He was incredibly distractible. He was following every squirrel down every particular rabbit hole. Again, the best moment I thought of the debate for Donald Trump was that closing statement where he finally laid out the big question. If you say you have all these big plans, why don't you do any of those things? But in the final analysis, I can be pissed at the media. I can feel discomfort with how the debate went tonight. This is still a tight race. It's not going to become a not tight race because of this particular debate, which means that tomorrow Donald Trump better get up and he better decide that he's going to do for the rest of the campaign the thing he didn't do tonight, define her positions. It can't just let... J.D. Vance, by the way, is doing an excellent job of this. J.D.'s doing a great job of this. Trump needs to do it. He needs to actually do it. If he does that, he can still win the race and he still has the upper hand. But this debate was I'll say it was a blown opportunity at the very least.
I think that part of it is, I seriously agree with you. I think the two things that Trump did accomplish was he got ganged up on, which obviously he didn't do, but I think that was really important. I think we do not see how far the media has fallen in the eyes of the American public. The fact that after that DNC, that ecstatic, loving, that love fest of the DNC, Kamala Harris didn't get a bump, is telling us something about what the American public is thinking about the media. They are watching the media. They get it. They've seen it. All the stuff we all have been talking about all these years, I think that the people whose minds are open now can see it. So that was good for Trump. I agree that Trump could have ended her. She was better, way better prepared than she's ever been, but only as well prepared as I thought she was going to be. I thought she did the job that she had to do.
That's true.
And he could have ended her, and that's disappointing. But he didn't attack her personally, and he did say, I don't agree that, look, when he goes off the line and he chases the squirrel, and he does it when his ego gets involved, it's always really frustrating because you want him to stick to his script.
I like Andrew Klavan. Andrew Klavan is a very big Trump supporter. But look, Ben was right. And we were given the same analysis here on the show, which is nice. You got a multi-million-dollar company, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue sitting in front of you. And then there's us in a closet with a bunch of patriots in the chat. You know what I mean? And we're given the same exact analysis that a multi-million-dollar company is. And I love the Daily Wire. I've been a longtime supporter of them for years and years. And look, Ben was right. He was spot on. It was a failed opportunity, but nothing hopefully is actually going to change that much. Now, what was reported, though, here's the thing. Let me pull it up for you guys. This is actually written by our Wonder Woman, Jackie Heinrich. Let me pull up her stuff. Now, there's a huge spike in terms of the abortion that was going on. Let me see if I could find it for all of you while we're listening to this.
Constructed campaign. I don't think that's going to get us where we need to go, but I think it's going to be exactly as you say. We're going to stay on track where we are now. I think Trump's leading. I think he's leading more than the polls say. Remember, their polls are better than our polls, the ones that we see. And I think he's leading more than they say. And I think he's got a serious chance. This certainly did not destroy that in any way.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt. I'll just say that I think the good thing for Trump is that there was not a meltdown moment. There wasn't one thing that'll get clipped. I mean, a lot of things will get clipped, but he didn't. It was a poor performance, but there was not one iconic like meltdown moment for him. Kamala, I agree with what's been said so far. I think she did as well as we could possibly expect her to do. She also didn't have a great moment. I mean, the media will try to manufacture a moment out of it. She didn't have one. But, well, really, she had one. The moment of the debate, if there was one, I think, was when she baited him on the rallies and when she said that they leave the rallies early because they're bored. Obviously, they plan to say that for only one reason, not because that part is compelling to the voters. We don't care about that. If Trump's rallies are boring or not, we don't care. But she knew that Trump just cannot stand that.
There you go.
You're getting him right where it hurts the most. The idea that his rallies are boring is just you are stabbing him right in the gut with that. And I think he responded to that by rambling and getting very defensive. And from my read of it, I think he never quite recovered from that. He was more visibly angry throughout the whole rest of the debate. His tone was angrier. He was a little bit off kilter. I don't think he ever got quite back to it. But it was kind of spread out throughout the debate, so it doesn't. So I think that because there's not the one moment that will just be repeated, it wasn't like with Biden when there was the couple of moments of him not being able to speak.
Drooling.
That did happen. It means that probably 2-3 days from now, nobody's talking about this debate. And you could say that even though Trump performed relatively poorly, if no one's talking about it 3 days from now, then it's kind of.
Wow, thank you, Lily, with the $20 over at Rumble. Thank you, Brad. No, thank you for spending time and being here with us. That's really important. Like, it's the community. And I appreciate. I would say this is one of those nights that it was nice to spend it with the community because of the frustration. And it's nice reading the chat through the entire debate that you guys were frustrated too, that you're seeing the exact same thing I am, that it's wanting to hit your head against the wall. So I really appreciate your guys' kind and love and support here through all this. It's been great. I like we're talking about a funeral, but you know what I mean. Like, I appreciate you guys being in here and hanging out.
Minutes, and then they decided, no, we're going to step in. And it was more egregious than Candy Crowley in 2012. It was the most egregious I've ever seen. A complete disgrace for David Muir and that other lady.
Lindsay Davis, yeah.
Lindsay Davis.
What a clown show.
A complete disgrace. He won the closing statement. That was a very strong closing statement. Hers was fine, but it was.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
By the way, I have a question. Do you want that from your government? do you want your government coming to me like, are you okay? How about, like, not when you're talking to me, I'm not.
No.
Like, go away.
The biggest takeaway for me, and somehow it had not occurred to me until that moment when she shook him up on the crowd sizes, Kamala Harris's superpower is that she's quite good at manipulating men.
Yep. There you go.
And I don't mean that as a cheap shot or a provocation.
I told you, like an ex-girlfriend that you had as a teenager. Did I not call it? He's saying the exact same thing here. She's like that psycho girl that you dated.
Career by manipulating a married man, Willie Brown, in San Francisco. Much has been said about that. That's how she got her start. She became vice president. She couldn't win one delegate in the 2020 primary, but she became president because she baited Joe Biden on that debate stage. She called him a racist. She accused him of being the reason she wouldn't be allowed to be bused to school. And she put him in a position where he had to pick a black woman for VP, and she was the only one that he could have picked. And then she laid out that trap for Trump. With the question about crowd sizes. She is not great at retail. She's not good at speaking to people. She doesn't know a damn thing about
Thanks,
policy.
Robert.
She doesn't have a platform. But she's pretty good at manipulating individual men. And especially when she was backed up with the full weight of ABC News, it allowed her to make up for her deficiencies and land basically at a draw.
We're so good, so easy to manipulate.
That's right.
I think that it would be true that a tie. I think it is true that a tie goes to the person who's ahead. I'm not sure that I agree that Donald Trump is ahead. I don't think that the polls have yet reflected that Donald Trump is ahead, although certainly her momentum has abated and he has the opportunity, but he isn't taking the opportunity. And I think the thing I disagree with you the most about, Drew, is this idea that everyone sees through the media. You know, I think Gallup released a poll 2 weeks ago that said Democrat trust in the media is actually
Jeremy's right here.
precipitously rising.
I'm talking about the people who are going to decide the election.
Yeah, well, the people who are going to decide the election are not Republicans.
No, they're independents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the question is also going to be how many Democrats show up. So I think the big advantage that Trump had against Biden is that Democrats weren't showing up to the polls, right? They were so depressed that they weren't going to show up. They're not going to have a turnout problem. I think that after the performance that she gave tonight, Democrats are in a good mood. You can see they're in a good mood. They're going to be in a good mood. You're going to get a lot more vibes. It's going to be vibes up the wazoo for the next couple of weeks. And this is where at a certain point, it becomes almost criminal politically to miss as many opportunities as President Trump is currently missing.
Yes.
It is his job not to miss the opportunities. And listen, we got 2 months to go. Maybe he starts hitting the opportunities. That's the thing you want. But since Biden was swapped out for the brand new coat of paint on the broken up jalopy masquerading as a Lamborghini, since that happened, he has not found his footing in terms of actually doing his job, which is to define her in the mind of the American public. And he had every opportunity to do that tonight, and he didn't take any of them. He, at the very beginning, the very first question, right out the gate for her was, are you better off economically than you were 4 years ago? Now, his answer, he should not even listen to her answer. He should not even listen. He should, as soon as they come back to him, as soon as he realizes what she's doing, which is she's now going to avoid the question, which she did, just start wandering all over the landscape in search of an idea for the next 2 minutes. As soon as they came back to him, he should have said, you know what I noticed? I noticed you didn't answer that very simple question because it has a very simple answer. Of course you're not better off than you were 4 years ago. You've done a terrible job. Joe Biden has done a terrible job. You're the current vice president of the United States. And then he should have dumped in what he said at the end. You have all these big plans to change the country. Where are you? Why don't you go do them right now? I noticed you've done none of them. Right? I mean, like, in the first 5 minutes, this debate could have been over. And
Ben's right here. And by the way, Pat, you're right. I do got to hydrate. A little bit of water. I forgot to show you guys. Look, so I gotta know what the Patriots want to do here. All right. Now, we didn't clear it. Here's the thing. No tax on tips, in theory, is a part of Donald Trump's agenda. And I wanted to put the X on it, and I'll tell you why. But I don't want to do it if you guys think like, hey, we didn't fill it. Is because they talked about her flip-flopping on agendas. And also Donald Trump brought up the fact that he wanted to give her, quote, a MAGA hat because she's copying all his policies. So do we have a go here on Xing this out and we get everything? It's up to you guys, or we leave it off. What does the Patriots want to do? Where was the other one that was kind of iffy that I put on there? Veterans, J6, radical. I think we legitimately had everything. Oh, it was the Biden cover-up. Because he brought up the fact of like, oh, who's the president? Who's running the country? Are you saying nope? Don't cover it? What do we do? You guys let me know.
And that's the part that really galls me. That's part that sticks in my craw.
I have to interrupt you here because I owe our sponsors.
You know, Donald Trump missed a lot of opportunities. He's been missing the opportunity to define Kamala Harris since she became her party's nominee. He missed a lot of opportunities tonight, I think, as you've described, to clock her. But the biggest missed opportunity of the night had nothing to do with Kamala Harris. He missed the opportunity to run against the media. They fact-checked him and fact-checked him and fact-checked him. They fact-checked him when he was right. They didn't fact-check her when she would outright lie. She wasn't fact-checked, I believe. She was not fact-checked a single time during the debate. And you can say, well, people see that. But only people who are really plugged in, really paying attention, watching the debate all the way through, see those things, you have to tell people. You know, the biggest lie told, I think, in the history of Hollywood was told by the dearly departed James Earl Jones. If you build it, they will come. He didn't actually say it.
Let's see what Hannity's saying.
And the list goes on and on. Left-wing moderators, the biggest loser of the night, ABC Disney, Bob Iger's network. It was a disgrace. They barely asked her about important issues. We've got 56 days until an election. Early voting starts in this Commonwealth in 7 days. You know, in between so-called fact-checking and clapbacks only against Donald Trump.
There you go.
Because Kamala didn't offer any details on her own. As predicted, tonight's debate was 3-on-1. Anyway, joining us now from the spin room, Florida Senator, my senator, free state of Florida, Marco Rubio. Senator, how are you?
Thank you.
He was doing a big gaggle before. I walked over and I'm like, tapping him on the back. He's my senator.
They were impressed. The reporters were impressed.
The biggest, I think, failure for the country tonight was ABC.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to journalism. I mean, it's on issue. I mean, they're literally.
That's what some of you said in the chat.
Donald Trump, why did you do or say this horrible thing? And then the question to Kamala Harris is, what do you think about the horrible thing that Donald Trump did? There was no, listen, no, they didn't ask her. Grocery bills are up 50% from 2020. 50%. What do you say about that, Kamala Harris? How are you going to deal with that? They didn't ask her about the Afghan. They let her get away with this lie that Joe Biden didn't withdraw us from Afghanistan. Joe Biden was run out of Afghanistan in humiliating fashion. Even the fact checkers were wrong, where she said, oh, there's no state in the country where there's a lot. There are multiple states in this country, including Tim Walz's Minnesota, where if a baby is born in a botched abortion, they allow the baby to die. Okay? And then they let her get away with not answering what restrictions she would be supportive of.
See, this is a frustrating thing is when you have 3-on-1 and you have a fact like you just laid out about Tim Walz and his position on late-term abortion, and Donald Trump was 100% right. He was talking about Governor Northam. Well, first the baby will be born and we'll make the baby comfortable, and then the doctor will talk to the mother. But that's not the point. Months 7, 8, and 9th. Even people I know that are pro-choice, that would.
I mean, look, they're saying exactly what we said here, what we said did. Now, one of the things she wants to do is remove your rights, you guys. Somebody that doesn't want to remove your rights, that's Rumble. This sponsorship is from Rumble, by the way. We're giving them a huge shout out here. They're the ones we're streaming through. One that is incredibly important to survival of the company, folks. Rumble first started in 2013. They built a platform for small creators like me. They didn't censor or have any biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or even censor opinions on like COVID and others, but they did. And Facebook freaking admitted to it. They fell to the pressure from the Biden-Harris administration, and Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. They are attacked from the brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove free speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it, folks. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. Watching our show here on Rumble is the most they can ask for from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you want to have the means, or if you have the means, one major way is that you can go ahead and help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO, folks. They're for free speech. They're back in free speech, and they keep the lights on here running with us. Like I said, if you have the means, and because it is a cause, and we want you to get into it, go join Rumble Premium right now, folks. And we always appreciate you watching us over here at Rumble. I know a lot of you over at YouTube, but Rumble deserves a lot of love as well.
Job of injecting that in there. And in the end of the debate, he said the most important thing, and that is she's been there for 4 years. All these things she's promising, they haven't done. And frankly, she wouldn't answer the most important question she was asked all night. Are Americans, she was asked this, are Americans better off today than they were 4 years ago? She didn't even answer it. She went on to talk about how she was born to a middle-class family, raised in Canada for part of that time in what apparently is not a middle-class neighborhood. But nonetheless, she went into her biography. And I think she was exposed tonight. The talking heads, they analyze this because they all want to pretend like Kamala Harris was born on July 24th of this year. She has a record. She has a record as a senator, and she has a record as vice president. And Americans tonight got a glimpse of what she really believes, what she really stands for, and what direction she'll actually take our country. And I think that was a big win, big win.
Does this move the needle in your view?
I think it does, because there's a lot of voters. Remember, voters in the real world don't analyze this like the people that talk on cable news.
I'm watching the big game. I'm already pissed off. Well, Troy, good luck with that. I was fuming. I'm a little dialed down now. My friend brought your amazing book, The Trojan Horse, yesterday. We're going to get together to say, oh, wow, cool, Karen. Thank you so much for that shout out. Yeah, Karen Catmon bought our book, Trojan Horse. Might as well plug it while we're here. Why not? We have no corporation behind us. We are literally grassroots, just us and the Patriots here. Here's my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah. I don't know what my favorite chapter is, to be quite honest. That is a great question. You know, oddly enough, when I got the publisher, they wanted another chapter about illegal immigration and abortion, but based on the timeline, I was only able to get abortion out. And doing my research, I really learned a lot about it. So that might be one of my favorite chapters, is about abortion. I take you back thousands of years and discuss that. So that's always fun. And I like the statistics about discriminations and disparities. That's always fun, too.
How do you interpret that and your overall thoughts on the debate tonight?
Well, listen, I'm skeptical that Kamala's team will have her do a second debate. I think they're going to back out of that. I think they're going to send her back to Joe Biden's basement. I think we probably will not see Kamala emerge again from the basement, sort of like the groundhog in her shadow.
Did we not call that, folks? Did we not say that was going to be the strategy? If she wins, if she comes out of this on top, you're not going to see her again? That's not only what we said before the debate, but it's also said what we did to our morning show.
Kamala demonstrated as number one, she cannot defend her disastrous record. Her record is an absolute train wreck. So instead what she did, what we saw tonight in this, quote, debate, was her repeating memorized set pieces from her stump speech and from her convention speech. The very opening question, the most important question in any election, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? She refused to answer that because she couldn't answer that, because nobody, unless you are a Mexican drug lord, nobody else is better off than they were 4 years ago. So she didn't answer that. Instead, she's like, I'm from a middle-class family. I want things better for you. And no aspect on inflation. She didn't address that she cast the tie-breaking vote on trillions of dollars of spending that caused inflation, hurting Americans across this country. On energy, she didn't address that she and Joe Biden have waged war on American energy over and over and over again, driving up the cost of gasoline and everything else for Americans. On the border, she didn't address her own personal responsibility, the invasion, the crime, the murders, the women sexually assaulted, the children brutalized. She didn't take responsibility for any of that. And then on foreign policy, I actually thought on foreign policy she was the weakest. It was absurd when she turned to Donald Trump and says, well, everyone knows you were weak and ineffective. Listen, if Donald Trump were still in the White House, the two wars that broke out under her leadership and Joe Biden's would not have happened. Russia would not have invaded Ukraine, and we would not have the war in Israel. And she took no responsibility for that weakness, nor did she have a word to say about the over $100 billion that she and Joe Biden have flowed to Iran. All of her records she ran away from, and I got to say, the ABC moderators were complicit in her running a completely fact-free debate performance.
So same analysis that we got from the Daily Wire and others.
Harris's own running mate, Tim Walz, repealed protections for babies who survive abortions in the state of Minnesota.
Which, by the way, survives abortion in this instance means are born.
Are born. Right. So they try to kill the baby is born. There are legal protections in some states that say if the baby is born, you have to provide medical care as you would to any other human being. And
all right, so we touched on all of that. We will touch on more tomorrow. And the analysis isn't going to change, you guys. The analysis is ABC sat there. They rubbed the shoulders of Kamala Harris. There was an entire setup. It was all strategized. She knew what's going to happen. She was prepared ahead of time. Did she have the questions? I don't know. It doesn't really matter at this point. And look, Trump didn't do his best job. I know he thinks he did, according to his Truth Social post. But it wasn't his best performance. His best performance would have not sat there and took the bait consistently from her. It was a strategy. We called it out early on. I wish he would have performed better, but it looks like 80% of you said that he won. I don't think he did. I'm not just saying that because it was like I thought he was going to lose from the beginning, but I just know who Kamala Harris is from my home state. I know the type of tactics she does. She came out doing the exact thing I thought she was going to do. very manipulative, lying through her teeth. She has nothing to go on. She has no policy. Her own damn website doesn't have any policy. So, you know, it is what it is. They're probably not going to be another debate. You got to sit out there and show up, folks. I know you know this, but we got to show up this November, or else, well, shit. I mean, we're still going to have a show nonetheless, but we don't need another 4 years of this, man. None of us do. I don't care how well some people are doing. We don't need another 4 years of this crap. So we'll keep you up to date. I'm going to be back tomorrow. What we're going to do tomorrow's episode is we're going to go over some clips. We'll also go over some news as well, but we'll kind of rehash out what took place during the debate. Let me formulate my thoughts more. You got a real-time reaction. I'd imagine at this point it's not going to change all that much, but I would love to have you guys join us tomorrow morning nonetheless. We go live 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time each and every day for our normal podcast. Shout out to everybody for clearing the board today. We did clear it. That's bingo number 4 or 5. I don't know what number we're on, but we cleared the board. You know, kudos to you guys for getting that done. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I appreciate you spending time and choosing my channel amongst all the other bigwigs that you could have chose to watch it. You guys know I greatly appreciate all of you. I see you in the chat. Appreciate you, folks. Appreciate you. She is nuts, Troy. Yep, she is nuts. So with that being said, folks, I appreciate it. I'm going to go shower because I am sweating up a storm. I'd like to eat some dinner as well. But again, I really appreciate y'all. God bless Patriots. Take care of one another. Pray for this country. Pray for Trump. And we'll do more of an analysis here tomorrow on the Bald Brad channel, folks. Take care of yourself, Patriots. God bless you.